Is pathological narcissism helpful in someone who wishes to become a leader? In other words, are you more likely to become a leader if you are possessed of some kind of pathological narcissism? We know that healthy narcissism is, as the name implies, healthy. It's a foundation of self-esteem and self-confidence, a sense of self-worth. It allows you to regulate internally your sense of worthiness, and it's also a foundational cornerstone of the ability to interact with other people from a position of self-awareness, realizing your limitations and shortcomings as well as your strengths. Healthy narcissism is definitely a precondition for mental health. And yet, we are not talking about healthy narcissism. Everyone has a narcissism trait. Narcissism is hereditary, genetic as a trait. We are talking about pathological narcissism. If you have a narcissistic style, or if you have even a narcissistic personality disorder, is this a good thing when you are in politics, or when you are trying to become the leader of a social movement, or when you're a guru, or when you have followers, and so on? In other words, is there a high correlation between pathological narcissism and leadership and guidance positions in life? My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited, and a professor of psychology. And the answer, like everything else in psychology, is it depends. I know that's the answer you've been looking for, and I'm here to enlighten you. It depends on what? It depends on the type of politics prevalent in the environment in which the individual operates, on the type of society, and on the type of the ethos, the social mores and social norms and conventions, and the narrative that binds the collective together. Let's break this down. Type of politics. In previous videos, I've made a distinction between Weberian politics and charismatic politics. Weberian politics is a form of politics that is institutional, bureaucratic, and impersonal. It's named after Max Weber, the famous sociologist. And so in Weberian politics, institutions determine policies and institutions implement policies, and the individual gets in touch with a faceless and often heartless bureaucracy, which implements almost robotically policies decided in the hidden corridors of power. There's no face, there's no individual which is identified with any specific element or combination of components of the institutional bureaucratic state. The European Union is an example of a Weberian institution. And then we have charismatic politics. Charismatic politics revolves around an individual, usually a single one, sometimes a group of individuals. And this individual is the face of the politics of the time. This individual determines a variety of policies in many fields, and then uses existing or new parallel institutions to implement his or her policies. This individual is charismatic, usually demagogic, and there's a personality cult involved in the majority of cases. It's a cult, in effect. These are the two, and Donald Trump is an example. These are the two situations, these are the two types of politics. And of course, narcissism, especially pathological narcissism, affords the individual a competitive edge, is a positive adaptation in a charismatic type of politics. When politics revolves around charisma, around ability to communicate efficaciously, around magnetism, personal magnetism, in this particular case, pathological narcissism is very helpful, and even psychopathy is helpful because of the superficial, glib charm, which is one of the main clinical features of these disorders. The second condition is the type of society. We have collectivist societies, example, Japan, and individualistic societies, example, the United States. In collectivist societies, pathological narcissism is a hindrance It's an obstacle, it's a disadvantage. Narcissistic leaders are not appreciated, nor are they promoted or obeyed in collectivist societies. It is the collective that is the repository of wisdom, decision-making, and action. So, in collectivist societies, pathological narcissists are unlikely to rise to the top, whereas in individualistic societies, as Theodore Millen and others have observed, in individualistic societies, pathological narcissism is actually a positive adaptation, an advantage, and allows individuals with pathological narcissism to rise to the top, to hijack power, to leverage it, and to enhance it time and again in the pursuit of the affirmation and buttressing of a grandiose, inflated, fantastic self-concept. The third condition is ethos, the type of ethos. As Bradley Campbell, the sociologist, had observed, we are in the throes, in the midst of a transition from the age of shame, reputation, dignity, and reality, an age where social control was channeled through the shaming of people and reputational costs associated with misbehavior, where people have emphasized dignity and respectability in the eyes of others. The external gaze defined them, and where people were grounded in reality because they had no other choice. They had to survive. So we are transitioning from this era, from this age, to a new postmodern age, where the emphasis is on negative affectivity, such as rage, negative affects such as rage or envy, fantasy, not reality, a rejection of reality, and spectacle as the organizing and explanatory principle of society. Obviously, in shame-based, reputational, dignity or dignified societies, where the emphasis is on reality, pathological narcissism is an obstacle, an impediment to personal development and the attainment of leadership positions. Whereas in postmodern societies, where the emphasis is on negative emotions such as rage and envy and hatred, on fantasy rather than reality, and on spectacle rather than substance, on appearances rather than substance, in this type of societies, of course, or this type of ethos, of course, the narcissistic individual is uniquely equipped to take advantage and to climb to the top and to emerge as the predominant leader. Narcissists are experts at fantasy. They do fantasy well. Their entire lives are constructed around an ongoing, uninterrupted spectacle, and they're full of negative affects, such as envy and narcissistic rage. They're uniquely equipped and uniquely fit this new environment. These are the three conditions. So, let's summarize. If the type of politics is charismatic, if the emphasis is on charisma and a single leader with a personality cult, if the society is individualistic and rewards individualism, ambition, competitiveness, and so on, and if the ethos is an ethos of negative affects, externalized aggression, fantasy rather than reality, and spectacle rather than substance, then this kind of environment, kind of ecosystem and habitat are uniquely positioned, uniquely accepting of narcissistic pathologies, and pathological narcissists are likely to emerge on top as because they are uniquely equipped to survive and thrive in such environments.